In this era of deep complexity,
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility.
beyond the edges of black or white,
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
it's time to be notionally accurate.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
Here are your hosts, Captain Kirk and some guy named Jason.
Welcome one and all to the 17th episode of the Notionally Accurate podcast, produced live right here at the One Man's Burden Studios in my undisclosed compound, located in the same brave new world Sona they're keeping former White House resident Joe Biden. My name is Captain Kirk and I'll be your affable host. Some guy named Jason and I break down the broken down talks between Ukraine's ruler, Volodimyr Zelensky, and U.S. President Trump. Then we dial into what the Democrat Party stands for post-electoral loss. And then we provide a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit of a preview of the speech to Congress. Were we right? Were we wrong? Let us know.
No, to a degree, it was very awkward to watch Trump dress down Zelensky. It was awkward to watch. I didn't know when I first saw the clip and I first heard about it. I watched the whole thing, and I watched what Zelensky said, and I watched JD come back in from with the brass knuckles and like pop him in the
All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden, of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
I didn't know what the story was to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014
2014.
and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was
he killed.
not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line.
So when I first saw it, I was like, "Dear God, what's going on? This is crazy. We can't. Oh my goodness! Like, I know because when they were saying he was being disrespectful and stuff, I didn't know." Obviously what they're talking about, but then to find out what happened is just crazy.
Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it.
Did they ever figure out who the senator was that Zelensky was talking to? Because apparently he was talking to a senator.
So I do know that prior to entering the meeting with President Trump and Vice President Vance, he had met with members of the Senate, including Amy Klobuchar, Lindsey Graham, who will talk about his reaction after the meeting. It was pretty strongly worded, let's just say. And I believe maybe Chris Murphy, I know Chris Coons for sure. So he met with a consortium of U.S. senators. There was some speculation, not proven from what I can tell, that these various senators and even Antony Blinken, former Secretary of State, Columbia grad, who spoke with Zelensky beforehand and told him to resist any effort to sign a deal to stand up for himself against President Trump, and as it turns out, J.D. Vance as well. I don't know how true that is, but if they did tell him that, he definitely took that advice to heart.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems? Bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Well, he tried to pull it in front of the press. He tried to change everything without talking to them in front of the press. And that was the reaction he got from the two of them. He got kicked out. They didn't even give him lunch. They gave the lunch to all of the press. And I guarantee you there were some delicious pierogies in there. I guarantee you, dude.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
Only the best from Trump.
Guarantee you. But yeah, but they kicked him out.
Yeah, I saw the whole thing myself. After the fireworks had died down, I was able to watch from beginning to end. Everything was going normal. Apparently, Zelensky was rolling his eyes and kind of throwing up his hands in frustration during the course of the conversation. Apparently, and I don't know Ukrainian, so I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently Zelensky used the word suka against J.D. Vance, and apparently that means bitch.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not. However, he was very standoffish. I thought he was looking like a petulant child. That's what the chatter on X/Twitter was. Even from the pro-Zelensky side, they were saying that he was calling J.D. Vance suka bitch.
Is you bring people,
And it wasn't until Zelensky went head-to-head with J.D. Vance on diplomacy, which apparently he lied, saying that Putin never gave up hostages, but we have video and photos of him greeting prisoners sent from Russia being freed on Ukrainian soil. So I'm not sure how to square that round peg. But Donald Trump, for at least two instances, when Zelensky was being intransigent and demanding, Trump would give out a joke or two.
And really, we can help Europe because Europe really helped. President Trump said that they made less support, but they have our friends and they are our very supportive partners. They really gave a lot, Mr. President. They did.
They gave a lot, but they gave much less.
No,
Much less.
No. No.
Don't argue.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
He patted Zelensky on the back.
Please.
And I do like your clothing, but
Yeah, really?
even though I think he's a great guy, by the way. I don't know if you two like each other, but you know what? I think
No,
I think
why?
he's
I like this guy. I don't know
I think
him.
he's dressed beautifully.
So I have more serious things than answer on such
Yes,
questions.
that's a
I will
good-
answer on more serious
good
questions if
statement.
I can.
Yes.
Yeah, so please.
Trying to diffuse and de-escalate things so that they could make this mineral deal in order to provide security for Zelensky in Ukraine. Now, I am confused. I've searched liberal Twitter, conservative Twitter. I don't know what security guarantees means. Is that just continued military support? Because Trump has already flat out said he's going to continue to provide weapons to Ukraine. It doesn't mean boots on the ground, not from America, probably from NATO countries. Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, said that he's not only going to put boots on the ground, but planes in the sky over Ukraine.
Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing.
So is that going to drag other countries to do the same, potentially trigger Article 5 retaliation, part of the NATO charter, which is more vague than even I was letting on. It just states that if a country is attacked, other NATO members will reply to what they feel is a substantial level. It doesn't require declaring war or sending boots on the ground.
But this is also going to put a lot of pressure on Europe. If this really does affect things, and we do like substantially back off and back away, the Europeans are going to have to really step up. I don't know. I don't understand why Zelensky I guess maybe because he gets all the money, but it's kind of an easy question though. Why he's in bed with the Democrats? But it's he's getting the money, but the Democrats aren't in power right now. Like I don't understand politically how that makes any sense for him at all to listen to anyone right now and say go against Trump. How does that make any political sense?
A, great point. B, that ties into what Donald Trump said during the meeting. You don't hold the cards, Zelensky. And I don't know if it is a language barrier, cultural barrier, but Zelensky took offense to that and said something to the effect of, I'm not playing cards or something like that.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
But yeah, no, it's a metaphor. It's not literal playing cards. So I don't know if that was just a language thing. And I have no problem that he's not fluent in English.
JD Vance a literal bitch? Was he calling JD Vance a literal bitch? Whatever.
If you use a word that means bitch in Ukrainian, I don't know who else he'd be calling. But everything was going smooth, and he decided for no reason to go one-on-one with JD Vance. Because he knew he couldn't take on Trump, Trump would just filibuster the entire conversation. But I think Vance held his own and provided good support for Donald Trump's position, his desire to get this mineral rights deal signed and move on towards a negotiated peace.
No, I think JD was spot on with what he was saying, like how disrespectful it was, that kind of thing. I think to a degree, I don't know where I read this from, but the idea that they did this because now it will weaken Ukraine and now Russia will be the stronger one. And all of the projections and all of the things the left has been saying about Russia will now come true because of the lack of support the United States is going to give the Ukrainians. So to a degree, this keeps the war going and it manifests exactly what the left thinks about Russia and Trump.
As far as I know, and Trump said this during the meeting, and he didn't make it contingent on the signage of the deal, so I don't think the two are connected. Trump did say that he's going to continue sending arms to Ukraine. When one of the reporters in the room asked him about it, he was unequivocal about it. I don't think we're pulling away from Ukraine. I just think Zelensky is becoming increasingly isolated from America, and what America First Trump supporters were asking for is for Europe to step up. They don't have to put boots on the ground, but provide military assistance, tanks and other material in order to assist Ukraine in this stalemate against Russia. I don't think there's going to be any great movement eastward into Russian soil via land troops. It'll be drones and planes and such. But I don't think this will prevent America from providing any assistance either, which I have no problem with. I might be one of the few Trump supporters that have no issue providing Ukraine certain military assistance. And it's not for the arms manufacturers. Suddenly they became baseball and apple pie Americana from the left-wing perspective, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, but there you go. I just think this is going to be a very interesting back and forth to watch.
Yeah, I'm not a Trumper, but Ukraine has always been such a, like we said last week, it's been such a slush fund for Europe and pretty much the world, the Western world. It's just all the money goes through Ukraine. That's how you get a job on a power company that you have no experience on because you gave somebody something. That's how
your last name
Ukraine has always been. So yeah, and their elections are weird and everything is just it's a mess. It's been a mess for hundreds of years. And I don't know, to think that we could support Ukraine enough to push Russia out, I don't see that happening. I don't think Europe wants to do that. No one really wants to do that. We have to like start looking at the off ramp. And what Zelensky did is they tried to change the lane to get into the on ramp, and Zelensky just yanked the car back to the center of the road because he doesn't want this war to end. He doesn't want this to end this way because he's not that popular right now. And the minute this is over, and we kind of compared him to Netanyahu, at the minute the conflict is over, they're probably done. They're probably going to lose their seat. So, not that I'm saying he wants to stay in the war just so that he can stay in power. I'm just saying he has his own motivations to not necessarily sign this deal. And I don't know if it's necessarily the purest of motivations, but I don't think anything in this situation right now is pure. Like they try to make it, and it is. I mean, Russia did invade Ukraine. Russia did do that, but there was a long history before that of expansion and broken promises and games being played, and so it's not that it was right, but if you do look at it, you can see why. Does that make any sense?
So the ability to understand one point of view, even when not agreeing with the actions taken with that understanding, I think has been totally lost on either side. So your point's well taken. Yes, Ukraine, pretty much up until 2022, was considered an incredibly corrupt enterprise. That's why in 2018, in that infamous meeting that Joe Biden had with Poroshenko, that if you don't fire your special prosecutor, who just so happened to be investigating my son's energy company, then you don't get the $1 billion loan guarantee that the Congress had authorized. And son of a bitch, he got fired. Well, that's part of the corruption aspect. So suddenly, once they get invaded, all the past recriminations are settled and we have to become pro-Ukrainian, slavishly devoted to ensuring that they, what is victory at this point? They've lost a good amount of territory to the east. They're sending 75-year-olds up to the front lines and are incredibly dependent on the goodwill of those thousands of miles away for any sort of assistance, whatever kind of peace we can expect. It's not going to be on American terms as far as our military posturing goes. It'll be about diplomacy. And I don't know if you noticed, Rubio, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was sitting to the left of J.D. Vance. He was the one that was told by Ukrainian officials that they were going to sign this mineral rights deal. And as the meeting decays, you can see Rubio just sit incredibly stone-faced, so pissed off that he was misled by the Ukrainian delegation. It kind of contrasts pretty interestingly with their ambassador, the Ukrainian ambassador to America, putting her head in her hands as the back and forth between Trump and Zelensky heated up. It seems like this, barring some sort of turning point, this mineral rights deal won't get completed. And did you see Lindsey Graham's press conference after the meeting? He was telling Zelensky, change your mind or resign. And Lindsey Graham is one of those Republicans that have never seen a war they didn't want to fight. And even he is starting to lose faith in Zelensky.
I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with. The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president was just over the top. So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
Well, and it's very odd when you don't want peace. And also, too, it's odd when we can see now how the press is trying to steer it. Because of the pandemic, because of President Trump's first term, I can at least see, I'm more aware of like how things are being spun, how things are being twisted. So you have to, before you get that knee-jerk reaction of when I saw Trump yelling at Zelensky, like, dear God, dude, like, what's wrong with Trump? That's crazy. Before I do that, I have to listen to what happened to the story before they met, and then I have to read a corresponding story to make sure that story's right.
Oh, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You have to pan out a little bit from the initial impact of what is going on at any given time and get a fuller picture of things before you, like you said, have a knee-jerk reaction to something.
Right. Because, I mean, when I first saw it, I felt like I was watching, like, my parents fight. Just like, stop it. What are you guys doing? Stop it. Please stop yelling. What are you doing? Like, guys, this is weird. Like, stop it, you know?
Some of the memes that came out from that meeting was pretty funny. There were a lot of Godfather memes. There was one Tropic Thunder meme. Oh boy, you never go.
What was that one?
Full Zelensky. Oh my God, it's
that's
so
hilarious.
Funny.
Well, okay, but this does tie us into our next topic, because if Zelensky is leaning this hard democratically, and he is leaning with the Democratic Party, this might be like the last anchor, not the last anchor, But the biggest anchor that they have right now that they can identify themselves as specifically different than Trump. Like this could be if this could be I don't know, a hill to die on, as it were.
And Zelensky depends on that. The desperation to be opposed to Trump, so support Zelensky because he's opposed to Trump. But we have
and
Zelensky,
maybe to a degree, so do the Democrats. They need this really badly right now. Because what else do they have?
A differentiation point between them and Trump. Well, Zelensky goes to the UK to meet with their Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and he promises boots on the ground and planes in the sky. But of course, when has English security guarantees to a Eastern European country ever resulted in a worldwide war? I can't think of any. So it should be okay.
Right. but yeah, that's true. But my point is that the Democratic, like, what is the Democratic Party's identity right now? I know they're anti-Trump. A lot of them are anti-cuts, and they say, "Oh, these cuts are like they're hurting the families." They don't ever talk about specific things, obviously, but they really have no identity. And a lot of things that they're fighting with are 80-20 topics.
80%
you know,
support,
that like the
opposed.
governor, against, like the governor of Maine. Why are you doing this? Like you have Trump, embarrassing you. I mean, publicly. What can you say to him in that moment? He's picking you out of a crowd and just blasting you for this.
Like 2 weeks ago, I signed an executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. Many Democrats are fighting me on that. I hope you continue because you'll never win another race. And it's just crazy. The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
I haven't seen Trump beat a woman that badly since November. Too soon?
Yeah. Well, it was when she said, "Yeah, we'll see you in court." He's like, "Yeah, that'll be an easy one." And I was thinking to myself, that'll be an easy one. This guy has been in so many court cases. Like, I'm sure he was in tons of court cases before he went into politics. He was in tons of court cases. Right. You know how many court cases do you think Donald Trump has been in? It's got to be
under
not 1,000. You think 1,000? You think around 1,000?
I think a good amount.
Over 500. Over 500.
Give or take.
We should Google that. Anyway, give or take. No, but the Democrats are picking all these issues. Well, at least the issues that were their tentpole issues, the transgender thing, the abortion thing is not flaring up.
I think the abortion issue is pretty much done.
Like,
because a lot of states have already determined whether or not they want, so-called abortion rights codified into their constitution. Yeah, I think it's pretty much settled, which was a master stroke from Trump to send it back to the states.
Oh, it's super smart. And I prefer that. That's how it's supposed to be anyway. But I'll ask you this, Captain Kirk. If you were elected, now I know you are a straight white male, so this takes you probably out of the running. But let's just pretend here that you're not a straight white male, all right? You are asexual, okay, asexual,
non-binary, Latin.
Well, are you non-binary and asexual? Do you have to be one or the other?
Maybe it's whatever your lived experience happens
both?
to be.
All right. So you're asexual, binary, Latin, man-child. So,
and
they have elected you the. All right, whatever. This is exhausting. You check all the boxes; they all like you. So you're now the head of the DNC. Okay. What? Because I was kind of doing this mental exercise with myself this week. I was like, all right, what would I do?
How do you define a Democrat?
How do you stay? How do you define a Democrat?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what you're going at, right? Like, how do you define a Democrat? It's a trans issue.
Because
and support for Ukraine.
Okay, so that's an 80-20 issue.
It is.
See,
and they're
Ukraine is
right
not
down on the 20% side.
You think so? You think Ukraine's an 80-20?
I think support for Zelensky might be an 80-20. I mean, Trump overwhelmingly won on the premise that he will secure the peace, and so that means almost in effect that Zelensky gets sidelined, because just looking at what happened in the White House, he's not going to go quietly into that good night.
No. Okay. But that being said, so what would you do if you were the head of the head of the DNC, and you had to have a big meeting, and all the people are there, and you're like, hey guys, this is what the Democratic Party is going to do now. Now listen. Now in this made up world, you're not a MAGA guy, all right? So shut off that part of your brain, all right? Don't try to destroy the party. You can't destroy the party, all right? You're honestly trying to build it back up. What would be one of your first steps?
I got nothing.
Because for me, you have to drop the 80-20 issues. You have to drop the 80-20 issues. And you have to
then they'll never win another election.
Yeah, I'd get behind the cuts. And then I would be like, hey, why aren't we giving the money back quicker? That kind of thing.
So kind of jump ahead of the cuts and try to own that issue.
Yeah, instead of being reactionary, and because they can't bring up the trans stuff anymore, that stuff's not going to stick. The abortion stuff's not going to stick anymore.
It's true. That issue is settled.
I don't know whatever else. Yeah, and
we saw with the Janet Mills blow up that the transgender issue going to land you in court if you don't comply. I do like your point about reactionism, though. The reactionary politics of what we now call the left. Because conservatives were usually called the ones that were called reactionary and such. Because the Civil War occurs and exactly. And the reaction was this, that, and the other. Jim Crow laws, redlining, black codes. Civil rights occurs in the 60s, the reaction, states' rights. But now the Democrats, the left, are the reactionary ones, because Trump is leading the way in changing the culture, changing politics as we know it, shaking things up, and being the chaos agent. And how to react to that. The Democrats have nothing. They have nothing.
Well, and we've talked about this before. Trump has, not only has he broken the Democratic Party, but before that, he broke the Republican Party. He had to break the Republican Party before he could break the Democratic Party. But that was in 2016. I mean, that was ugly. And even
I was there.
He doesn't have the residue that he did his first term of the deep state, Republican deep state. But he broke both parties. So now it's, what do you do? Because you can't be crazy. Crazy's not going to work anymore. California and we're going to talk about it later. California is in trouble, and how does that affect the Oscars? How does that affect Hollywood? How does it affect these things? Because these the way you're running things, it's not going to. I don't know. It's not working. So they that was my I don't know. I know I kind of sprung the question on you to change an entire political party, but you know, if you could do that really quickly, that'd be great. You know.
Oh yeah. I mean, dropping the trans issue again, that's not going to work. You can't drop the abortion issue. That's not going to work. You can't drop Ukraine. That's not going to work.
No,
because then your side will never vote for you.
Right.
And it's quite the predicament.
The Israel thing's sticky, and the Israel thing is sticky still.
Israel as well. Yep.
You know,
you have to toe the line between supporting our gallant Middle Eastern ally and supporting the mullahs in Iraq, which is, you know, good luck to that.
Well, but they're supporting the anti-imperialism Zionists that.
Right,
whatever.
The expansionist Israeli. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But so that was my thought is right now, if I was a Democrat, I would get on the coattails of some of this stuff. And because right now, complaining about cuts, that makes you look really bad. Did you said you did listen to the Elon Musk Joe Rogan episode, even though I know you're not the biggest Joe Rogan fan and you give me grief because I listen to Joe Rogan.
It's just 3 hours is way too long for a podcast. Anyway, I did listen to the episode. I thought it was very interesting. I had it on 2 times speed and they sounded normal to me. So that was kind of an interesting quirk of the conversation. But it was interesting.
Because something that he said that really stuck with me was, okay, you're critiquing these cuts. I get it, you're critiquing these cuts. But can you point to specific cuts? He's like, give me the line. Give me the line that you don't want me to cut. And how they were giving excuses. Well, so what they said was, tell us what you did the past week, right? And tell us why this department should be open for anything, whatever. And they said, what did he say? He said, we weren't looking for good excuses. We were looking for any excuses. And there were people that just didn't even write anything and didn't respond at all. And so it's like, are you even there? What did you do? You don't have to be good at your job. Just what did you do? What's going on? Are you there?
It was a pulse check.
And it was I don't know.
To make sure that the people who are working in the federal bureaucracy were still alive. Unfortunately, I guess in a way it could make sense that Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard told their underlings not to answer the email. They don't want sensitive information getting out, I suppose. But you could still make it as vague as possible. Just answer the email. That's, I don't think, too difficult. I could do that in my job. No problem. I wouldn't whine about it. One of these federal workers was like, oh, I felt threatened and harassed because of the email. Lady, no, you didn't. You're lying.
Yeah. No, you were intimidated by it and you didn't know how to define your job. But here's the thing is that's what I thought was so shocking. He's like, we weren't even looking for good things. He's like, we were just looking for anything. If you wrote anything, we would keep you. He's like, literally, and he said there's a lot of programs that if the flimsiest of reasons to keep it open, they kept it open. But they're literally just going through stuff that has no reason to be open. And
absolutely,
I don't know. As a Democrat, how could you be against that? I would. The thing is, be smart here. Don't be anti-Trump.
Unfortunately, the modern Democrat Party. Unfortunately, the modern Democrat Party is anti-Trump, but collectivist, broadly speaking. They favor the big, elaborate bureaucracy.
Yeah. Well, that's what they want.
The majority of the jobs created under the Biden administration, if not a majority, then a plurality, were all government jobs, not private sector jobs.
Right. Well, and that's the crux of the difference is Democrats want more. They believe more government is the answer, and whereas conservatives and Republicans tend to be less government or smaller government. And then the derivative off of the Democratic Party is fascism, apparently, because you have so much government, and we have a department for everything, and you're classified this, and this is where you stand, and it's just So
they want to bring over German. They want to bring over German hate speech laws to the United States. And when did importing German ideology ever come to bite us in the back? Oh wait,
boy, your innuendos tonight are very World War II oriented. I've noticed. This is very.
Because you could say it's on the mind.
Well, didn't Musk refer to himself as Trump's tech support? That's his relationship with Trump is his tech support. So
he's trying to get these outdated computers that were put together in the 90s and early 2000s to speak to each other across the departments, and apparently the technology is very outdated and obsolete, so a lot of rewiring is going to take place.
Well, it's archaic. Like some of the stuff that he was talking about, it's like, oh my goodness, like it's archaic. I can't believe, and they just kept it. You
Relics.
know, like that, like if you don't stop this one thing happening, it's just going to keep happening. $50 million goes over here. Well, if you don't figure out how to stop that $50 million from going, it's just going to keep going, and you have to figure out how to. It's very interesting, and I'm in support of it, and like I said before, it's going to hinge and going to hang on the economy. If they can turn the economy around, all of these cuts and stuff it's going to look like a genius thing. If he can't get the economy under, then it's just going to be another thing to throw on the fire, you know. So tell me about this State of the Union, the Trump State of the Union address. It's not a State of the Union, but why are they referring to it as the State of the Union address?
Because in effect it is, but the first year of a new administration, the speech given in front of a joint session of Congress, it's the State of the Union, but it's not. It's really confusing. I don't know why they just don't call it the State of the Union. He's going to be providing, first 100-day updates and what he wants to do moving forward with, the energy economy, the AI infrastructure he's trying to get started, updates on the Ukraine-Russian war and things of that nature.
So that will be a bunch of news. He's going to say a bunch of stuff, I bet you.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And that's going to be really
interesting. Well, and that's where we were talking about before the show too, about how different it is with Trump and the press compared to Biden. And they said that Biden's first 30 days, he did like 119 interviews or something, or 109. I think the average is like 125, 126. And Trump did over 1,000. He's talking to the press every day.
The most transparent administration in American history.
Well, and now that he does, it's the most transparent. And he's talking to the press a lot differently this time. The whole administration is. They're not backing down at all. The cards are the momentum is obviously in the Trump favor. The AP not being allowed in the Oval Office. That's crazy.
So they'll still be allowed in the press room. So what happened was
the press room, but not the Oval Office.
Right. So the Trump administration renames Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. AP says we'll still use Gulf of Mexico. White House said, the hell you are, and is trying to pull their credentials for the Oval Office. But they're not pulling the press briefing credentials. They're going to allow the AP to remain in there. What's interesting is the pushback, the reaction, as we were talking about with the Democrats, the reaction is, oh, this is anti-free speech. We need to stand for the First Amendment. Well, what does the First Amendment say? Congress shall make no law. Well, the executive branch inherently is in Congress, so it's not violating any First Amendment right, and the AP can still write whatever it wants to write. It just doesn't have the privilege of access to the Oval Office.
Right. And had that ever happened before in the existence of the AP? I don't think so. Or they haven't had
as
access.
Far as having its access pulled, I don't think so. I know the Obama administration had done some hanky-panky. I don't know if they spied on the AP or subpoenaed the AP for documents regarding a certain DOJ case. But, I mean, the predecessor to the first Trump administration, he wasn't any better to journalists. He'd cock-block them as much as Trump is accused of doing. The Biden administration, and I'm sure you remember this when they kicked out Simon Atiba from the press room, nobody said anything about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Nobody had any issue.
No.
The former head of the White House Correspondents Association, Tamara Keith, didn't say anything. And, of course, if anyone watches PBS, God bless you, but you can tell when she's on, Tamara Keith, when she's on PBS NewsHour with Amy Walter, what her opinions are. She's just another left-wing journalist posing as a news reporter.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see now how they do distribute information. That Epstein thing was a joke. What was going on with that?
That was the biggest debacle I've ever seen.
Like that was very, very odd for how slick and how tight everything has been going for Trump up to this point. Like, what was that all about? So you had influencers who did have access and did get the binders, and then from that point broke all the rules and showed whatever, posed with them and then shared it online, and they weren't supposed to, and so they broke all the rules. And then it didn't matter they broke all the rules because all the stuff that they were given was all stuff that they released in 2015 or something like that, or was it?
A lot of it was old information.
Like
yeah, it was information that was already released.
Didn't even matter. Yeah.
So these content creators are told, wait 3 hours, there's an embargo. As soon as they left the White House, the Oval Office, reporters from various media outlets were snapping photographs and asking for them to hold up the binders. And that, coupled with the smirking, the smiling nature of their posing, really didn't provide a great view.
Well, and then the Department of Defense said that the FBI didn't do this, right? Is that because they both just kind of look stupid? They did a big thing and it's nothing new.
So what we learned afterward, and I don't buy this for 1 second, but apparently the day of the binder debacle, the DOJ is told by a whistleblower who, I don't know why they didn't come forward sooner, said that the Southern District of New York, the SDNY, where Trump was tried for the 34 felony case, their FBI field office had information that they were keeping from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, that would fill in the blanks and provide more substance than what we got when the binders were flashed around.
What's the motivation behind that? Why would you protect that?
I don't know if you're joking right now or if you're serious.
No, I mean, I guess, okay. Who? Okay, so are you on the list? Is that why you're?
Yeah, I mean, ostensibly. So keep in mind, this is a very interesting fact here. Trump's first first term of his administration, Bill Barr was the Attorney General. Who was Bill Barr's dad? Bill Barr was fathered by Donald Barr. Donald Barr went to he went to Columbia and became the head of something called the Dalton School in New York. The Dalton School hired a professor.
Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah.
Someone who never taught before. I don't think they even finished their degree at this point. His name was Jeffrey Epstein. And this is probably sometime in the 70s.
Right.
Well, I mean, Donald Barr wrote a book that describes a foreign world out in the universe where sex slavery is being conducted by oligarchs. And this was, again, written in the 70s to 80s, probably. And so it's just kind of a weird think of history. So there are ties, there are connections that we do not understand.
So do you think the FBI were... Because they're thinking maybe the CIA was using them, but do you think the FBI was using them? But that's what I don't understand. Like, why wouldn't the FBI turn over these things unless somebody was on the list and they're...
Well, the SDNY is a hotbed of anti-Trump activity. It wouldn't surprise me that A, because Kash Patel was just put in place, and B, the prior FBI director, Chris Wray, yes, a Trump appointee, but showing every day that he was just a lackey for the deep state, staffed that office with lackeys that will do something like this. Now, are they on the list? Probably not. But the point is that the FBI's field office in New York was willing to withhold information if the whistleblower is correct.
Yeah, that's just weird. It just seems like it's such an easy thing for the left to like latch onto. This is another thing. Like, why, if you're on the left, why would you not latch onto this? This is rich people literally exploiting society and being the grossest people on the planet. You're applauding the guy shooting the healthcare person, but yet this, because you're so anti-Trump, it's okay if they don't give you all the Epstein stuff. Like, what? That makes no sense to me. I think both sides of the aisle, everyone's like, "No, come on, turn it over. Something's going on here." I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and it's also going to be interesting to see.
I was just going to say, the reason Democrats left or what have you, the only use of Epstein that they latch onto is the fact that he knew Donald Trump for a cup of water in the 90s and early 2000s, and then Trump kicked him to the curb before broad reporting on the Lolita Island and all that stuff came to light, and his plea deals and everything. So that's the only reason you hear a Democrat bring up Jeffrey Epstein. Otherwise, they couldn't care less, unfortunately.
Which is nuts. Then that's, I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're a Democrat and you don't have ideas on how to revive your political party, just come to me. I got some ideas. Go after the Epstein thing. I would say ride the cuts, give it back to the people, because if you do that correctly, because they're gonna have to go more center. Get the Epstein files. That's frustrating.
I don't think they know how to do that. Because who's giving the?
No, I don't think so either.
The rebuttal to the State of the Union.
Oh yeah, who is that?
It's a brand new senator out of Michigan, Elisa Slotkin. Now, I'm not making this up.
Okay.
I didn't pull this out of my backside. This is all true. She's a former CIA agent who went to Columbia University.
Oh, get out of here! You're Columbia. Bum bum bum. We need that out. You need to put that sound effect.
Yeah. Yep.
You're in Columbia.
I'll do that. Yep. So this Columbia rabbit hole goes pretty deep. because even Bill Barr went to Columbia.
Right. Well, and you have a theory. Well, you don't even know what your theory is. You don't know what you.
I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, but I've discovered a whole bunch of weird links to Columbia.
Yeah. You're on the cusp of something. I don't think you didn't necessarily know what it is.
Exactly.
But you've been digging.
So I'm not alleging anything. I just don't know what it means.
So do our listeners know this? Do our listeners know about your Columbia?
My Columbia rabbit hole?
You have a Columbia. Yeah. We don't have to dive too deep into it. We don't have to.
I won't.
Yeah. We don't have to dive too deep into it. But it's pretty much, you were just doing research on who graduated from Columbia, right? Now, could you just give us like a brief names? Yeah, could you just give us like a brief list of people who have graduated from Columbia? And it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Go ahead.
So I have discussed this in small doses on prior podcasts. The first episode podcast provided a whole lot of names and connections to Columbia. FDR's brain trust came from Columbia. The presidencies of President Obama went to Columbia. His attorney general, Eric Holder, went to Columbia. His first Supreme Court pick, Sonia Sotomayor, went to Columbia. As I said earlier, Trump's attorney general went to Columbia, Bill Barr. In the Biden administration, and these are just the quick names I can think of the top of my head, Secretary Blinken went to Columbia. His Biden's Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, who's also tied into the Ukraine issue, was a fellow at Columbia. And the list goes on. I could make people's eyes glaze over. Columbia has fingers in all the pies.
Are there any other like schools that are close to it, like Harvard or Yale or Stanford or anything like that?
So I think what differentiates Columbia from Harvard, Cornell, Yale, Princeton, and I don't know what it is. Again, I'm still trying to figure it out. But my working theory is, in the 1930s, Columbia housed refugees from Germany. A certain mustachioed man with an angry streak took power and kicked out all the Marxists. Some of those Marxists had founded in Germany something called the Frankfurt School. One of those professors was Herbert Marcuse. He helped to promulgate the idea of critical theory, which is Marxist intersectionalism. Now, it's mostly about the academic, high-minded philosophies, but that's where we get critical race theory, critical gender theory, DEI, and what we call the woke ideology, which is just streamlined race Marxism. So in the 1930s, 40s, and beyond, Columbia University housed the Frankfurt School refugees, the ones who survived leaving Germany. The 1960s and the chaos and the revolution that was occurring at a social and cultural level allowed Marcuse to be drugged out from academia into broader society. A lot of these hippy-dippy, crunchy granola types saw Marcuse as a grand thinker of his age, and he and Herbert Aptheker, another Marxist academic, helped provide the intellectual fodder for a lot of these quasi neo-Marxist types that were creating race riots and storming campus dorms and all that good stuff. A lot of that flowed from Columbia University and their decision that these Marxists can teach at this school. Harvard doesn't have that history. Cornell doesn't. Berkeley doesn't either. They're just those who received the broader butterfly effect of Columbia's decision.
I like how that's you barely touching on it. Okay, so heard the news about Gene Hackman and his wife and his dog all died. They don't know. Now, in theory, they all died. They think possibly natural gas. But what makes it suspicious is they're not releasing anything, correct?
So their bodies were just recently discovered. Though the belief is that they were dead for longer than when they were first discovered. So we are waiting for an autopsy to determine what the causes were. As you alluded to, I think it's carbon monoxide poisoning. But if reports are true, and again, I don't know if they are, the front door was open. So speculation is some sort of foul play, but authorities are discounting that.
Well, has there been any information like on his background? Was he into something? Like, was his wife into something? Was the dog into something? Like, what?
Did they have information on Hillary Clinton? I can't speculate.
Yeah, like what? Like, did he have something? Like, he had no second life, right?
As far as we know, maybe he had all the information to the Epstein client list.
Because with the front door open, have you ever had natural gas though go off? Have you ever smelled it before, like a leak? You can smell it.
You can't smell it. You can't smell carbon monoxide. Yeah. That's odorless. But natural gas, I think you can.
Oh, natural gas, yeah. That's interesting. Well, it's horrible. He's a great actor. He was a great actor. But in fact, it's got the dog.
Favorite Gene Hackman movie?
My favorite Gene Hackman. I love him in Unforgiven. He's really good in Unforgiven. He's the sheriff.
Right.
Yeah. He always played a really good bad guy. Yeah. I just don't. Does natural gas hit like that though? Does it hit to where all three could just die instantly like that?
Well, we don't know if they died instantly, if they were suffocated.
Natural gas is hitting on. Yeah. But you know what I mean? I'm just trying to think if it was. Does it hit you like that where you can't even like crawl out of the room? You know, like the dog passes out? Like, I don't know. That's just kind of interesting.
Let me ask Rock. Natural gas itself isn't chemically toxic like carbon monoxide. It's simply an asphyxiant. This means it displaces oxygen in the air. If you're confined in a confined space with a leak, the oxygen level drops and you can start feeling symptoms of hypoxia, low oxygen. At first, you'll notice headaches, dizziness, or tiredness, stuff that's easy to shrug off. As it gets worse, you can experience shortness of breath, nausea, trauma, confusion, or even pass out. In extreme cases, if oxygen dips below 6%, normal air is 21%, it can kill you fast within minutes by suffocation. That's rare, though, unless you're stuck somewhere small and sealed, like a basement with a big leak. So that won't apply to a door that's open.
Right.
And then it goes on.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to see what happens.
Indeed. Anyway, thanks for listening to episode 17 of Notionally Accurate. On behalf of some guy named Jason, I'm your host, Captain Kirk. More to come on future episodes. Find this podcast on SoundCloud, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow us on X/Twitter at NotionallyACC. That's at NotionallyACC. Email us at notionallyaccurate@protonmail.com. Take care, and remember, even if you can't be factually correct, you can always be notionally accurate.